Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with a story that matters. This one's not loud. It doesn't come with sirens or headlines, but it's the kind of story that quietly wraps itself around your heart and makes you question what dignity really looks like. Her name is Jasmine Monroe, 32 years old, a school teacher. The kind who remembers her students' birthdays, shows up with snacks when she's tired, and still somehow grades every paper before the weekend. Today is supposed to be a happy day. It's her 6-month scan, a 4D image of the baby growing inside her. The baby she and her husband prayed for. The baby that brought softness back into a world that had grown sharp. Before we begin, please like the video and subscribe, but only if stories like this truly move you. Comment your city and the time you are watching. Now close your eyes, or don't, it's your choice. Either way, you're about to witness something real. It begins on a soft spring morning in Atlanta. The kind of morning that smells like magnolia trees and warm sidewalks. Jasmine steps out of a rideshare car in front of Eastbrook Women's Medical Pavilion, a building with glass walls so clean you could lose yourself in the reflections. She wears a light powder blue dress that drapes gently over her baby bump. Her hand instinctively rests there, protective but calm, while the other adjusts the strap of her worn canvas tote. She doesn't look like the women inside, not today. Not by their standards. No designer sunglasses, no diamond-studded stroller catalogs in hand, just her breathing steady, her heartbeat echoing in the silence as she walks into the marble foyer. Behind the front desk, a blonde receptionist in her 20s glances up, then immediately down again, like Jasmine's presence short-circuited her attention span. The air is cold, not from temperature, but from tone, like stepping into a room where you are not expected, or worse, not wanted. Jasmine smiles anyway. Years of classroom management have taught her that warmth can be its own quiet rebellion. "Good morning," she says. "I'm Jasmine Monroe. I have a 10:30 with Dr. Langston." The receptionist looks up this time, blinking slowly, her expression hovering somewhere between confused and unimpressed. "Langston," she repeats, like Jasmine might have mispronounced it. "Yes," Jasmine says again, gentler this time. "Scheduled 2 weeks ago. Confirmed it last night." A clipboard is slid across the counter with the sort of flat efficiency that could pass for rudeness if you look too closely. "Fill these out." Jasmine takes it, still smiling, but now it's the kind of smile people wear like armor. She finds a seat near the corner of the room, away from the other expectant mothers who tuck their handbags tighter into their laps and avoid eye contact. One woman glances at Jasmine, then at her own phone, frowning, like Jasmine's presence somehow changed the tone of the morning. There's no outburst, no dramatic moment, just silence. Jasmine completes the forms with a steady hand and perfect penmanship, though her fingers tremble slightly beneath the surface. She checks the time again. 10:22. Marcus said he'd meet her by 10:30. He always keeps his word. But the longer she sits, the more alone she feels. And somewhere down the corridor, behind one of those sleek, frosted doors, something is waiting. Not everything stays buried forever. The nurse doesn't call Jasmine's name like it's a person. She reads it off the clipboard like it's a problem that needs resolving. No smile, no welcome. Just a quick glance that scans her body from curls to sneakers, like sizing up a misplaced object. Jasmine rises carefully, one hand bracing her lower back and the other gripping her tote. She nods politely because years of living in rooms like this have taught her that being polite is sometimes the only shield you get. The nurse turns before Jasmine is fully standing. There's no slowing of pace, no consideration that she's pregnant. Jasmine trails behind her, the soft soles of her shoes making no sound against the wax floor. The hallway is too clean, too white, a silence so tight it could snap. On the walls, stock photos of smiling white mothers cradle picture-perfect infants in soft focus glow. Jasmine wonders just briefly if any woman who looked like her had ever been asked to be in those photos, or if the silence here always came preloaded. The nurse gestures toward room 4B, doesn't hold the door, doesn't speak, just flicks her eyes toward it like a dismissal. Jasmine steps in and thanks her anyway. The nurse is already gone. The room smells like lavender airspray and bleach. A monitor in the corner blinks with idle data. The table is covered in crisp white paper that crinkles as Jasmine slowly eases herself onto it. She smooths her dress beneath her legs, resting her palms on her belly, grounding herself. She checks the time, 10:39. He's just running late, she tells herself again and again. Marcus always keeps his word. Then the door opens. Dr. Meredith Langston glides in with the confidence of someone who's used to being the most important person in every room. Her white coat is spotless, her hair in a tight platinum bun. Her heels click against the tile once before she stops. She doesn't introduce herself, doesn't offer a handshake. She just looks and keeps looking. So, you're Jasmine Monroe. Her voice is clipped with the kind of edge that pretends it's professional. Jasmine straightens. Yes. Good morning. I believe we're doing the 4D scan today. Dr. Langston's eyes scan her from head to toe. Not clinically, critically. You came alone, she says, almost like an accusation. Jasmine hesitates, then nods. My husband's on his way. He was called into the office this morning, but he's coming. A slight smirk curls the doctor's lip. Of course, she mutters, turning toward the counter, flipping through a file with more force than necessary. Then the tone shifts. Well, let's hope he actually shows. It'd be a shame if you brought another child into the world just to raise them alone. You know how that usually goes. Jasmine blinks stunned. Excuse me, Dr. Langston turns, arms crossed, cold eyes narrowing. I've worked in this clinic long enough to know how these stories end. Walk in alone, walk out expecting someone else to carry the responsibility. That's not the kind of patient this facility is built for. Jasmine slowly rises to her feet. I don't know what assumptions you've made, but I scheduled this appointment weeks ago. I came here respectfully. I'm here for my child. The doctor steps closer, lowering her voice to a venomous whisper. You people are always respectful when you want something, but you bring chaos with you. It's written all over you. And frankly, she turns toward the counter again, glancing at a silver tray. Her hand hovers dramatically. My watch, she says flatly. It was right here. Cartier, platinum band. I set it here this morning. She slowly turns to face Jasmine. And now it's gone. Jasmine's body stiffens. What are you implying? Dr. Langston's lips tighten into a cold smile. Not implying, observing. You were the last person in this room, and now it's missing. Security will be up shortly. I suggest you stay where you are. Jasmine's voice cracks. This is a mistake. The doctor's voice slices clean through the room. Don't make this harder than it has to be. And with that, she leaves. The door closes behind her with a mechanical click, leaving Jasmine alone, breath caught in her throat, hand trembling slightly over her belly. She reaches for her phone, but the footsteps are already approaching. Behind that door, justice hasn't arrived yet, but it's coming. And not everything stays buried forever. The door opens not with alarm, but with authority, slow, intentional, and final. Two men enter, both in uniform, both white, one older clipboard in hand, his expression unreadable. The other younger, broader, chewing gum with the slow, smug rhythm of someone already decided. Neither offers a greeting, neither explains. They look at Jasmine the way people look at packages marked suspicious. Miss Monroe, the older one, says, eyes not quite meeting hers. You'll need to come with us. There's been a report of a missing item. The doctor has identified you as a person of interest. Jasmine's mouth goes dry. I haven't taken anything. This is wrong. The younger one speaks up, already moving toward her. You can explain yourself downstairs. Let's go. She instinctively steps back, one hand protectively over her belly. I'm pregnant. I don't feel safe being escorted like this. I'd like to call my husband. He's on his way. You'll have your chance, the older man replies, emotionless. After we process this, there's no offer of assistance, no moment of consideration, just pressure. Quiet, coercive, institutional pressure. Jasmine has no room to argue, no one to vouch for her, no choice but to move. They guide her through a side corridor past locked cabinets, supply closets, and the kinds of doors that never open for patients. The air grows colder, the floors darker. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead with a dull hum that sounds far too alive. They stop in front of an unmarked door. Inside the room is bare metal and concrete. A single plastic chair bolted to the floor. A metal desk. A wall of monitors cycling through grainy security feeds. Sit, the younger one says. Jasmine hesitates, then lowers herself onto the chair, careful with her dress. Her eyes scan the room, but there's no clock, no window, no mercy. I need to call my husband, she says, her voice shaking but steady. Phone, the younger one snaps. Now she hesitates again, hand trembling as she reaches into her bag and offers it. He snatches it, turns it off, and drops it into a drawer. We're holding it until this is resolved. You can't just, Jasmine starts, but the older man cuts in. You're not under arrest, he says, as if that somehow excuses what's happening, but you are being detained for investigation. Cooperate, and this ends faster. She presses her hands against her knees, trying to breathe through the rising panic. Her baby shifts inside her, a flutter of unease she can feel in her ribs. Her voice is low now, almost a whisper. I came here to take care of my child. I didn't do anything wrong, the younger officer sneers. Ladies love to act, but the facts don't care about feelings. The overhead light flickers again. They're not questioning her, not searching, just keeping her here, holding her, isolating her, because they can. The silence feels like a sentence. Minutes pass. By 10 more, Jasmine loses count. Her eyes stay locked on a spot on the wall, afraid that if she looks at the men again, she'll either cry or scream. She thinks of Marcus, of how his face will look when he walks into the lobby and realizes she's not there. She thinks of the receptionist stalling. She thinks of how quickly everything can spiral when no one's watching. But someone is watching now, just not in this room, not yet, and not everything stays buried forever. Upstairs, the marble floor glints beneath polished shoes. They move with purpose, not speed. Every step steady, every breath calculated. Marcus Monroe enters the lobby like a man who's been in 1,000 rooms where he wasn't welcome and made every one of them remember his name. He wears a dark gray suit tailored sharp. His DOJ badge rests just beneath his lapel, small gold and glinting like the truth. The receptionist who greeted Jasmine earlier looks up expecting a patient. Her eyes widen when she sees the expression on his face. I'm looking for Jasmine Monroe, he says, calm but firm. My wife, she had a 10:30 appointment with Dr. Langston. The woman blinks too slowly. Her fingers hover above the keyboard like they've forgotten what to do. I believe there was a situation. She's not in the exam room anymore. Marcus leans forward slightly. Not aggressive, just undeniable. What situation? His voice doesn't rise, but something in it makes her glance toward the hallway like she wants to disappear into it. I think security was involved, she stammers. There was something reported missing. I think Dr. Langston. He cuts in with precision. Where is she right now? I think downstairs, she mumbles. Security office. Take me there, Marcus says, or call someone who can. The receptionist hesitates, but he's already reaching into his jacket. With smooth, practiced motion, he pulls out his credentials and flips them open. Deputy Director, Office of Civil Rights Enforcement. The seal of the United States Department of Justice stares back at her. Her voice catches in her throat. It's down that hallway, past the elevators, first unmarked door. Marcus doesn't nod, doesn't thank her. He turns and walks. The air shifts behind him like it knows something's coming. The hallway narrows. The silence deepens. And then he's there. A gray metal door cracked just slightly. He doesn't knock. He pushes it open. Inside, Jasmine sits in the hard plastic chair, hands over her belly, eyes wide with a fear she's been holding in for too long. The two officers snap their heads toward him, startled. The younger one straightens his gum, pausing mid-chew. The older one instinctively steps between Marcus and the desk. Can we help you? He asks, trying to reclaim ground that's already lost. Marcus steps fully into the room. His voice is smooth as stone. Yes. You can help me by explaining why my wife has been detained without cause, without access to her personal belongings, and without legal representation. The officers glance at each other. Jasmine gasps. Marcus! He walks to her side, resting a hand on her shoulder. I'm here. It's over now. Then he turns back. The air goes still. I want the name of the individual who filed this report. I want the footage that supposedly backs it. And I want both of you to consider your next words very carefully. The older guard stiffens. There was a report of a missing watch. Dr. Langston identified her as, did you review any footage before detaining her? Marcus asks, a pause. No, sir. Protocol said. Protocol doesn't override the Constitution, Marcus says coldly. You've unlawfully detained a pregnant woman, denied her medical autonomy, and confiscated her property. The younger officer fumbles toward the console. We can pull the footage now. Do it, Marcus says. No. No. The screens flicker. Footage rolls. 10:41 a.m. Jasmine walks into the exam room. Calm, polite. She never touches anything but the seat and the doorknob. 10:52, Dr. Langston re-enters the frame, glances at the tray, looks at her wrist, frowns, walks out. Marcus points. Freeze. Zoom in. There it is. A silver Cartier watch. Still on the tray, she left it. Jasmine whispers, her voice brittle with disbelief. Roll forward, Marcus instructs. A janitor steps in, cleans quickly, leaves. 10:59. The watch is still there. Then nothing. The feed cuts. Why does it end there, Marcus asks. The younger officer swallows. That's when the cleaning team shifts systems. There's a 5-minute blind spot. How convenient, Marcus murmurs. He opens the drawer and retrieves Jasmine's phone. He places it gently in her hands. Then he looks at the officers one more time. We're filing formal complaints, civil rights violations, reckless endangerment. And this footage? He nods at the monitors. Will be going to the state licensing board. No one moves. Jasmine rises unsteady but upright, stronger than she was an hour ago. I want to go upstairs, she says softly. I want to face her. Marcus nods. Let's finish this, because not everything stays buried forever. The elevator doors part with a soft chime. Jasmine and Marcus step out onto the top floor of Eastbrook Medical Pavilion, and for the first time that day, every eye in the hallway turns and stays. Not because of what she's wearing, not because she walks alone, but because now she doesn't. The same receptionist who had barely lifted her gaze that morning now stares wide-eyed from behind the desk, frozen in place. An administrator waits just ahead, straightening his blazer like a schoolboy called to the front of the class. Mr. Monroe. Mrs. Monroe, he says with a swallow. Dr. Langston is in the conference room. The Internal Ethics Board has been convened for immediate review. Marcus gives a single nod. Jasmine says nothing. Her chin is high. Her hands are steady. Each step she takes is measured and unshaken. Inside the glass-walled conference room, the mood is brittle. 3 board members sit stiffly at one end. 2 men, 1 woman, all white, all trying to appear neutral, but the tension around their eyes betrays unease. At the opposite end, Dr. Meredith Langston sits, rigid lips, pursed hands clenched in her lap. Her coat is still buttoned to perfection, but the armor is cracked, and everyone knows it. Jasmine takes the seat across from her. Marcus remains standing, his badge now visible, a quiet storm resting at the edge of the table. The board chair clears his throat. We've reviewed the preliminary footage, Mr. Monroe. We understand you wish to submit formal action. Marcus places a slim stack of documents on the table. Typed, signed, time-stamped. My wife was falsely accused, detained without cause, denied her rights, and humiliated while under the care of your facility. The evidence confirms she never touched the item in question. Further, we have audio recordings of verbal abuse and racially charged language from your attending physician. Dr. Langston scoffs. This is exaggerated. I followed protocol. I had reason to. You had reason to assume, Marcus interrupts. Not based on facts, but on her appearance. You saw her alone, made your judgments, and let your bias guide your actions. Jasmine turns, her voice level but unmistakably powerful. You didn't see a woman coming in for a scan. You saw someone to monitor, someone to suspect, someone who didn't belong. Dr. Langston's voice hardens. That's not what happened, but Jasmine doesn't flinch. You looked at me and saw a stereotype. Not a teacher, not a wife, not a mother-to-be, just someone you could diminish without consequence. The room stills. One of the board members shifts awkwardly in his chair. Another stares down at the documents in front of him, face tight with something like shame. Marcus continues. We are pursuing federal litigation, but beyond legal recourse, we are also demanding institutional reform. Mandatory anti-bias training, transparent patient rights protocols, and Dr. Langston's immediate suspension. The board chair nods slowly, his voice hoarse. We will begin proceedings immediately. Dr. Langston pushes back from the table without a word. Her chair tips slightly as she stands and storms out. No one follows. Days later, Eastbrook issues a public statement. Dr. Meredith Langston is placed on indefinite administrative leave. A full review of patient treatment procedures is announced. But the story doesn't end in a quiet back room. It ends outside. A podium is placed on the front steps of the clinic. Jasmine stands at it, her blue dress fluttering lightly in the spring breeze. Cameras flash. Microphones crowd. Civil rights advocates gather behind her. At her side stands Marcus, hands folded face, unreadable pride etched into every line. Jasmine speaks clearly without notes. Her voice is steady, her heart is full. This isn't just about me, it's about every black woman who's ever walked into a room and been judged before she could speak. Every mother who's been treated like a problem instead of a person. This is about what happens when silence becomes policy and dignity becomes optional. She pauses, breathes in, looks down at her belly. We will not shrink to fit someone else's comfort. We will not walk in afraid, and we will not be erased. The applause is quiet at first, but it builds, not clapping for noise but for meaning, for weight. As the sun breaks through the clouds above, Jasmine smiles. Not because everything has changed, but because something finally has. Because not everything stays buried forever. As the afternoon sunlight washes over the steps of the clinic, Jasmine lingers a moment longer, her hand gently resting where new life grows. This wasn't the day she imagined, but maybe it was the day that needed to happen. Injustice often wears a professional face, dresses in polite cruelty, and hides behind forms and protocol. But justice shows up steady, dignified, patient, sometimes in the form of a husband in a gray suit, sometimes in the quiet courage of a woman who won't look away, won't bow her head, and won't let a cruel moment define her story. In the days that follow, Jasmine returns to her classroom, to the chalk-stained desks and half-finished art projects. The whispers about what happened fade, but her voice never does. What she stood for now echoes in places where silence once ruled. Not because she shouted, but because she stood. So if you ever find yourself in a room where you're not seen, where you're spoken down to, where you're made to feel small, remember Jasmine. And remember what one calm voice backed by truth can do. Because quiet dignity doesn't just survive injustice, it exposes it.